Maybe let's start with Navy. And as you look at them, I don't think West Virginia's played Navy in a long time. So
1972.
Oh, so even before you.
Yeah.
So are they just an academy? Do they play differently, or is basketball? What's a scout on them?
Basketball's basketball, but I think pretty much the majority of the service teams they execute really well. I think their execution's really good. They just don't have the size and such that the people, for instance, in our league would have. But they're skilled and very disciplined.
Would coach against you jealous?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I know him well. I've known him for a long time, but
Well, I guess that's right. That Penn State, that was after he left. And that exhibition game.
Mm-hmm.
Has he changed the way he's had to coach, obviously, since he's had Navy kids as compared to when he was at Penn State?
They were pretty deliberate at Penn State. They weren't quite like they are now, but they were deliberate, yeah.
What did you emphasize since Saturday? Areas that you thought you had issues you need to improve?
Well, our ball screen defense, but our defense in particular, and we just threw the ball around. We didn't pass the ball. We threw the ball, and so we spent a good deal of time yesterday, and then trying to maybe shore up some of our half court sets that have been really good to us in the past that we made shambles of.
Played well in the first half. Had kind of I guess what it turned down to maybe 10 minutes in the second half that really kind of got you against Xavier. First 10 minutes.
It was an entirely different game, I think, in the second half. Yeah, I think there were a lot of things went on that no sense discussing, but
You kind of talk to your guys about it, say, hey, you got to adjust to what's happening out there.
well, I mean, yeah, you do, but I mean, at the same time, you got to shake your head sometimes too.
Mo didn't play much Saturday. Something you didn't like in what you saw to him? Is he back in good graces?
No, he was never out of good graces. I mean, Mo's a wonderful kid. He wasn't into it. He wasn't ready to play for whatever reason. And the way Jimmy was playing, there wasn't any sense in not playing Jimmy more. So, I mean, obviously, when Jimmy plays as well as Jimmy played, then Jimmy's got to play more minutes.
On Jimmy, you've seen his growth. Explain how much better he's gotten from the day you got him, and not just the weight loss, but just skill improvement.
Well, as people said, now he's never going to score for you. He'll guard and he'll rebound, and Josh has done a really good job with him, and Jimmy's really worked hard at it. And he made some, I thought, some pretty difficult shots in the first half of the game, particularly. And he's just getting better and better. I think Jimmy's going to continue to improve, and I think he'll continue to be one of our better players.
Got him. Did he have post move or two that he was comfortable with, or if you guys had to work with him to get one?
I might be the only guy in history that's recruited all the post players who couldn't get the ball over the rim. But now they all can. Now they all can. But for a while, man, we couldn't get it over the rim. Post players, for some reason, John, think they can score without looking at the basket, and it's very difficult to do that. So I think once you get them kind of zeroed in on looking where they're shooting it, they have a tendency to score it a little better.
This should be a game for them tomorrow. You're looking for good things from your posts around the basket against this team.
No, I mean, sometimes you think that, but then again, sometimes they put one guy behind and another guy in their lap, you know. And that makes it a little difficult. But hopefully, by and large, yeah, we can move them enough and get them in position enough where they can score. But you know, you're playing against a well-coached and a very disciplined basketball team, so they're not gonna run around and do crazy stuff. They're gonna stick to the charge at hand.
I mean, he's going to coach them to what they do well, and clearly they don't have the size that other teams have, so he's dealt with that for.
Yeah. I mean, they're used to that.
Right.
I'm sorry. Is this a one-year deal with?
Yeah, I
David?
think so.
Okay, because it just seems like interesting that was this something you had some say in, or was this all Josh? Or
Josh, I have a say in everything.
right, I know. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Josh and Trent have worked on the schedule, done a good job on the schedule. I mean, we're 11 in the net, and you know, so obviously scheduling that they have worked on has been pretty good.
When you think about the variety that you're going to get in a week's time, you went from Xavier to Navy, and then you're going to have UAB on Saturday.
They're really good.
I mean, you got all these different styles that you got to get your guys prepared for.
Well, I've watched UAB a couple times, and obviously, you know, Andy was my assistant for 2 or 3 years, whatever it was, and he's one, a really good coach, and two, he's a really good recruiter. And then the little fellow last year gave us absolute fits, and he's even better this year. I mean, a lot of his stuff last year was going at the basket, and he's a great finisher at the rim, but he's pulling up, making shots now, and I think he's much better when they have to play half court. I mean, when they can get it up and down, he's fantastic. And then he recruited another guard is a heck of a scorer. So they've got a lot of people who can score. They've got great size inside. They will be, you know, one of the more talented teams that will play.
So a couple of interesting games coming up in the Coliseum.
Different kind of games.
Yeah.
Different kind of games, but interesting. And you know, and I think as we go through our league, that's kind of what our league is. It's nobody plays the same. You know, so I think the more variety that you get to see, I think the more it helps us. I think the
Talk
more.
to Josh about that. Say, you know, we need to get so many 5-out teams. We need to get so many that play a certain way, so we can get what we need to get ready for the league.
John, you know me better than that. No, I don't worry about that. I worry about getting people who, at the end of the day, are going to look good to the people. Yeah. Yeah.
Flipping back to Jimmy for a second, and your history of recruiting guys who don't look at the rim. If the people you talk to say he's never going to score for you, that would seem like a red flag. But you saw past it, saw something there. Would you guys know that maybe other people didn't that you talked to?
Well, I had a guy named Danny Fortson who hit the bottom of the rim for a while, you know, and I mean it's not hard stuff, Mike. It's just when you're when you're down there and you're getting banged by another 260-pound guy, you know, you're probably more apt to look at the contact than you are look at the rim. And once you can get their head on the rim, when you get their head up and looking where they're shooting the ball, it's hard to make shots when you don't look where you shoot. I don't know if you've ever tried that, but it's pretty difficult. Yeah, and yeah, I mean it's a matter of getting their head on the rim, and once they get in, I've told the story many times, but Danny got a bunch of offensive, defensive tackles to come over and hit him with the pad because, you know, a normal person hitting Danny didn't do much good, you know. So they told me, they said, this dude just wears us out. And I told Jimmy the story, and you know, and we didn't have any defensive tackles to come over there. We're all playing football at the time. So, you know, it's we had guys in there hitting them. Josh is hitting them, and I'm trying to hit them. And but I mean, once you learn to absorb the contact, it's shooting a layup.
The risk of taking a guy that's 360 at the time. I mean, you say he's got to lose weight and get in shape, but not everybody can do that. When you looked at him, what brought the work ethic that you said he can get where we need him to be, but he's not there now?
At 300 pounds, I was amazed at his footwork, how well he moves his feet. I mean, the guy could probably be a left tackle in the NFL if that's what he wanted to do. And you know, I'm looking at his footwork, and his junior college coach is, if not the best, certainly one of the best junior college coaches in the country, and does a great job with his guys, and his guys come out prepared to play at the next level. So I didn't think it was much of a risk.
It had to be strange for Jimmy, though. I mean, he's a guy that's 6'10" and that big. In the last two games, he's looking up at the people he's playing against. I mean, there had to be an adjustment for him.
He better get used to it because it's not going to stop. I don't, you know, I think Jimmy's learning more and more and more how to use his body. You know, how to, you know, when you think about it, I mean, okay, they're taller than he is. They're not going to move him, and you know, really, when you look at his shoulders, how wide his shoulders are, and you got the ball back here, that's a lot of distance to bother a shot, and that's what those kind of guys do. That's what the power guys do. They use their body. They use their body, and they use their width, and they make you score over width, or I'm sorry, block shots or change shots over width, and it's probably actually a better way to do it than a thin guy who would try to score it over someone their own size or bigger.
Which is concerning you more, offensive glass or defensive glass?
Both. I think we're starting to get a little better offensively, but defensively we're horrible. We've got to get so much better.
Is it blocking out, or is it guys pursuing the ball, or reading the?
Well, you could keep on going because there is a myriad of things that we don't do that we've done very well in the past.
You watch on TV, it just looks like sometimes the guys are just looking at the other guy to go get the ball instead of going to get it. Is that what you're seeing from your vantage point?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
Coach Ren Baker was introduced as the new AD yesterday. I guess, what's your relationship with him at this point, and what are your hopes moving forward with him?
I said hello to him at the press conference, and he came over to practice, and we chatted for a few minutes. I think that's everybody who called me said you're getting a terrific AD, and that's coaches, that he's had association with. And I didn't call them; they called me. They called me to say, hey, listen, this guy here is really good. I mean, you're getting the right guy. So I felt really good about it before I ever met Red, because of the what everybody had to say about him.
A lot of his background is obviously people Oklahoma State, but he was a coach, did some office work in basketball, and I think you were there yesterday. The way he was talking about being a coach, he could understand both sides of that.
Well, he was there with Eddie. He worked for Eddie Sutton.
Do you, I don't know how to phrase this, when the guy has been a coach and he's been in your like situation, and not just like an administrator who just did office stuff, right? Do you see something that his argument that he can come from the same job from both positions, and maybe he understands the dynamics of a coach administrator relationship, having been a coach as well as an administrator?
No, you would think so, yeah. I mean, I don't know that much about what Ren did. I know he worked with Eddie, and Eddie Sutton's one of the great coaches of all time. I coached against Eddie several times, so I kind of hit it at the right time, Mike. I kind of hit it when the new guys were coming in and the old guys were going out. I was kind of in the middle, so I got to have a relationship with the Eddie Suttons and the Bob Knights and so forth and so on, but also the younger guys coming up. So,
Coach, the Purdue game, obviously being at the time it was Thanksgiving, way out on the West Coast. In a tournament, it's kind of a different situation than what the Xavier game was. True road game, they had the crowd, so probably a little bit more adversity, I guess, from that game. So I'm kind of wondering, did you find out maybe more about your team from the Xavier loss than from the Purdue loss? And are there things still to work that need to be
what I learned was the next time when I see what's going on at halftime, I will stop and interject my feelings about the whole thing as well. But, I mean, other than that, Purdue is, I think, the best team in the country. And we cut it to 4 twice. And so I think which would indicate that we are capable. We didn't finish it, but we are capable of playing with the best teams in the country. And there's a lot of things I could say about the Xavier game that I will not say, but I mean, I've never seen anything like that in 40 years.
That ball screen defense, Coach, you mentioned, has that been an issue all season, or was it that just kind of really hurts you?
It comes and goes. Yeah, it comes and goes. Sometimes we're pretty good at it. Sometimes we're not very good at it. I mean, we'll fix it. It's really not all that difficult to fix. A lot of it, guys, is how you interpret the rules. And do you have to be totally stationary? Can you pivot? Can a guy come over on this side and you jump on that side, and then the guy goes on that side and the screen changes? I mean, it's a lot of things, and it's a hard thing to officiate. I think it's one of the more difficult things that officials have to do is officiate ball screens. I mean, that's harder than maybe blockouts or something where there's more physicality, but I think it's harder to officiate the rule in exactly what the rule says. And I'm not taking shots at anybody. I'm trying to defend them, to be honest with you, because it is very, very difficult to officiate ball screens. That's the one thing in our game it's much harder to officiate a ball screen than it is a stagger screen or a flare or whatever. It's much more difficult. And there's a lot of things going on, and they're looking at a lot of different things. And I obviously I learned a lot being on the rules committee, but I think that's something in our game that is very difficult to officiate. And sometimes they get it right, and sometimes they don't. And they're not at fault either way, really, the way I look at it, because I just think it's that hard to officiate.
Didn't it used to be the screener couldn't move at all?
Yeah.
Now there's movement.
Well, allegedly it's supposed to be that way now, but it's not.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault. I mean, it's really not. I mean, you think about it, John. Okay, they move, but did they get their foot down?
Right.
Did they get it down in the appropriate time, the appropriate distance? Because they are.
You guys trying to fight off that ball screen so you don't get a bad switch.
Well, they are. I mean, they are moving, but do they get their feet down? Do they get their feet down? Are they squared? I mean, there's a lot of things to look at the same time. You really have to officiate the guy with the ball as well. I think it's hard. I think from an official standpoint, they would tell you that is one of the most difficult things there is to officiate in our game.
One more question. It just popped in my head. You played 3 times on the road in this Big East Challenge, only once at home, right? Does that even out through the life of it?
Probably not, because I think we're done with, aren't we? We're done with the SEC after. Now,
the Big East Challenge, you've been on the road 3 times and only played home once.
Yeah, I know. I don't understand that.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why they did the Xavier, because they'd send you back to Cincinnati. I mean, I guess that makes good TV, but it's not really fair to West Virginia.
Well, then when they come here, we ought to load them up and bring them here, huh?
I don't think they're coming here.
I don't think so either.
Coach, if you go back to like the preseason, September, October, obviously, one of the big talking points was all the new guys that had come in and how it was going to mesh, how it was going to work, because it's right there in front of you at that point. But now that the season started, it's almost like, okay, well, they've got some games under the belt and it kind of gets forgotten about. But I guess what I'm asking is there still a meshing job, I guess, going on at this point? Are there?
I think there's a lot of things. I think when you look at someone like Trey hadn't played in a while, and Trey had a pretty serious, injury to overcome. When you're sitting there watching, you can sit there and watch all you want, but it's not like being out there. I think there's a lot of things. Emmett coming from one league to the other league, they play entirely different out there than what we do here. I think there's been a lot of things that our guys have had to adjust to, and I mean, really, they're doing a pretty good job. When you stop and think about it. Eric's situation. Eric, this is Eric's 3rd or 4th school. And so he's played in different leagues with, to think that our game is all the same, it's not. It's not even close. So they have to make adjustments, and then you throw injuries on there. Pat's been injured. Pat just now is starting to come back. Pat hasn't played because Pat hasn't been ready to play. So when you look at all the things that those guys have to overcome, yeah, it's going to take some time. It's going to take more time than what certainly I would have wanted or you would have wanted, but it is what it is.
Coach, thank you.
Yes, sir.